I'm doing the Becky thing. Totally. I'm like, what are the other streams of income that I have?
Welcome back everyone to my new series here on my channel, Going Full-Time ? Today I'm so excited to present you with the first reseller interview that I did for this series, and I'll be talking to my friend Ashley Gibson. Ashley is a Canadian reseller, YouTuber and blogger who posts amazing content on her YouTube channel, and you should definitely be subscribed to her. And her and I had a really cool and interesting conversation about going from part-time to full-time reselling, and I hope you guys will enjoy it.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Veronika.
Welcome. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I'm assuming that anyone who watches my channel already knows you, but just in case that they don't, can you briefly introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are, what you do, and where they can find you?
Yeah, so my name is Ashley, and I am a reseller, YouTuber, and content creator based in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So if you're in the US, you might not know me because I'm based in Canada, but hello. You can find me in lots of places on the internet, on social media. I'm Ashley DTL, and here on YouTube, I'm Ashley Gibson, and I'm the reseller, not the MMA fighter. Like there's a difference between the two of us. And yeah, that is me and where you can find me. And I'm sure we're going to talk lots about other aspects of my story, so I won't give too much away now.
Yes, we are. Thank you. Okay, so this series that I'm doing, this interview series, it's a mix of interviews with full-time resellers, but also resellers who may be in the transition period, going, from part-time to full-time. And those who know you may wonder why you're here. So tell us a little bit about how long you have been reselling. Are you part-time? Are you full-time? Let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm. So I started reselling in September of 2019. So I had heard about Poshmark for a really long time from bloggers and social media people that I followed, but it hadn't launched in Canada yet. And if I backtrack a little bit, I tried to sell one thing on eBay once because I had this Betsy Johnson dress that was beautiful, but I never wore and it didn't really fit me. And so I gave eBay a go for like a hot second, but just like to get rid of that one thing. It didn't work. Anyway, Poshmark launched in Canada in May 2019, right at the end of the month. I signed up June 2019, put up a whole bunch of things on Poshmark, and then just sort of left it there. And then something happened where things clicked for me in September 2019. And I was like, oh yeah, that Poshmark thing, I should do something with that. And when I made my first sale, which was a Kate Spade wallet, I was hooked. And initially I thought I was just going to use Poshmark to sell some of my own clothing, just, casually sell some things, make some money back for some pieces that no longer fit me, that I no longer wore. But the more I dug into Poshmark and the more I learned about it, the more I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like, I like this thing. And for me, I love fashion, I love social media, and Poshmark combined it in a really cool way. So sold my first item, sold more after that, became a Poshmark ambassador within, I think, like 6 weeks or so. Wow. And I was building momentum and got really involved in the community. The Poshmark Canada community had just started and was growing. And so that was a really cool thing to explore. We had a Posh Party live in November 2019, and I was invited to speak, giving my perspective as like a new Posher. And so that was really cool. And yeah, that started my whole journey. And at that point, I was working full-time as an executive assistant. And so this was like my side hustle. And then, 2020 happened. It was
what happened?
A year. It was a time in all of our lives. And it was really interesting. It was interesting for everyone to try and navigate and pivot. But
that word, pivot.
Pivot, I know.
Pivot
in unprecedented times. And
yes.
Can you see my screen? If I can never hear those like 3 phrases again, I'll be set.
Yes.
I had just gotten really great momentum in my business, and I started thrifting and flipping things. And I was just starting to find my groove when everything shut down. And here in Toronto, spoiler alert, we've had a really long lockdown. Like we've had extended periods of lockdown. I'm currently still in one, and things are only starting to open up this Friday. So we're in June 2021. Things that we've been shut down for 7 months right now.
Oh my God.
So had to do a lot of pivoting in my business. Also in this time, I changed my job. I took another job as an operations manager with a small business and still was working Poshmark on the side. Also navigating the pandemic, also navigating a chronic illness. And it all became a lot. And I realized towards the beginning of 2021 that I was feeling pretty burnt out in my full-time job, and was starting to think about what my future would look like and what I wanted to do. And the more I've been learning about burnout, fascinating stuff, the more I've been learning, it's like, you don't just put an end to burnout. Like the things that are causing your burnout, even if you eliminate them, there's still the stress response that you need to heal. And also my job changed a lot. Like I was looking at Zoom like so much. Anyway, I feel like the story is getting very jumbled as I'm trying to explain what is happening in my life right now. But all of that to say, I realized, I really loved what I was doing as a reseller, even though it had been part-time. I really loved what I was doing on YouTube, even though that's been part-time. I really loved what I've been doing in terms of content creation and just like creating content on social media, kind of in the reseller vein, but also just like in the lifestyle realm. And I realized I needed a bit of a break from, my full-time job that I had been doing that was pretty demanding and involved supporting a lot of people, involved, a lot of face-to-face time on Zoom and just like being on all the time. So all of that to say, I decided to resign from my full-time job. And right now I'm in this interesting transition period where I'm not a full-time reseller yet, but I want it to become a bigger part of my life and a bigger income stream for me. So over the next few months, that's something that I'm going to be focusing on.
Awesome. I can relate to so much of what you just said, from the burnout to just being done, being there for other people and being on the screen all the time. I mean, those who've watched my channel before know I'm in academia, kind of, sort of still, maybe not, I don't know. And so I'm in this in-between stage too, which is why I started the series. And one thing that I mentioned was, for me, this whole journey from part-time to full-time, there is no specific time frame for me. It's just, it might happen this year, it might happen in 5 years, who knows? But I'm, going through this process of considering it more as an option, as an alternative to what I've been doing. And so, I think that's why it's so interesting to talk to different people who are either already have been doing this for years and are total pros, and, folks like you and me who we're just making that transition or thinking about making it.
Totally. I think it's so interesting. And like you said, like there's no one way for folks to run a reselling business. And there's no magic number that makes you say, okay, you were part-time, now you're full-time, right? Like doesn't go that way. And I think something that's interesting for me right now, like I realize what an immense privilege it is for me to be able to take this time and slow down and take care of myself, because that's really something that I desperately need. And, in terms of my life right now, I live with my partner. He owns our condo. I have a bunch of money saved, partially from a happy tax accident. Like all of these things just sort of fell into place for me. And I've, in my whole adult life, even as a teenager, like I started working when I was 16 and had to work always. And I was never in a position where if I wasn't able to pay my rent, I could go live with my family, or someone would be like, oh, don't worry, like I'll take care of that for you. Like I've never had that in my life. And so to be in this position where I'm able to do this right now, like I feel so grateful. And I'm just like really, really thankful that I'm able to do this and take care of myself in this way. And I also think a big part of it for me is my success and my happiness in life isn't based on like a title. It's not based on money. It's like, do I wake up in the morning happy, and do I go to bed at the end of the day feeling satisfied and reasonably happy? I might be tired, but like, was it a good day overall? Yeah. And if the answer to both of those questions, most of the time, like evens out to yes, that is success to me. So it's an interesting place to be in this place of transition where I'm like, okay, cool. I realized that full-time in the roles that I was in needed to take a step back from that and just needed to slow down a little bit, but just explore what comes next in terms of reselling, in terms of YouTube, in terms of content creation, and also just like taking care of myself.
Yeah. I agree completely. There's so many follow-up questions that I have, but let's maybe start with one. So when we say full-time reseller, and you already touched on that a little bit, it means so many different things for different people. What does it mean to you to be or to become a full-time reseller? What would that look like for you?
I think for me, it's scaling my closet. Like as a part-time reseller, I've had 160, 170 items kind of at max. And that needs to be at a higher level because I'm mostly selling like mid-tier stuff. Like I'm not in the business of luxury items. I think you could be a full-time reseller and, be like, here are my 160 Chanel bags. And I'd be like, yes, girl, you do you, you're amazing. I'm not there. So I think for me, it's like inventory. And then also just having reselling being a much larger income stream in terms of the money that I'm bringing in the door.
Yeah. It's so funny because I'm part-time right now and I have close to 1,000 listings.
Oh my gosh.
None of them are Chanel bags. And that's the other thing that's so interesting to me, and how we all make this work with such different backgrounds, but also, just starting with inventory. You have 160 items. I have 900 and something. And I would say just from watching your What Sold videos and mine, we probably sell the same amount of stuff every week, which really makes me rethink all the stuff I have sitting behind me. But yeah, and I think it's so important to acknowledge that this is such a interesting business where there's so many different ways of doing it, and none of them is, maybe some are wrong, but most of them are not wrong. And there's so many different ways to be successful. And I think that's why it's so important. And that's why I want to have these conversations, because I'm only one voice and I've only been doing this for a year and a half now. So I just really want to bring on really a lot of different voices, a lot of different perspectives, and especially you being in a different country, and we're going to talk about that too, that also I would imagine comes with different challenges. You already touched on the lockdown, and we're going to talk about that. But let's maybe talk about just in general, what platforms do you currently sell on, and how's that going? Are you planning on expanding that as you're growing your business?
So right now I'm on Poshmark Canada. And I dipped my toe into eBay, and I listed 4 things this week on eBay, which is more than I've listed in a while. So working on upping that. And that's all. So in Canada, we have fewer platforms to sell on than y'all do in America. I always laugh when I hear American resellers, especially Becky Park. I love when Becky Park starts rhyming off the platforms that she lists on, because somewhere about the 3/4 mark, she loses track and is like, have I already said, like, you can just see her wheels turning, being like, have I said Kitizen? I don't know.
When she starts, I visualize the little circle that List Perfectly has, like all the platforms you can cross list to, that circle is basically going around her face.
I love that. It makes me laugh. So I think at this point, I'm just going to focus on continuing to scale my Poshmark account and also just like focusing more on eBay. I got really excited about eBay in January, and then I was like, oh, life is, there's a lot going on. And I've made some eBay sales. They've all been to the US, which is super interesting. So I realized that it's a great opportunity for me. I just need to focus more energy on it, because speaking of differences in Canada, List Perfectly, Vendu, someone please make a cross-listing software that works for my country.
I think it was Tabs who made a video about Prime Lister now.
Yeah. So Prime Lister contacted me and they gave me a trial of it. It doesn't fully work in Canada.
Okay.
Because it doesn't work for ebay.ca. So when you cross list from Poshmark Canada to eBay, it lists in US dollars and it's not I'm like, that's not simple and easy. I also don't love the platform.
I was so excited when I heard her talk about that. I'm like, I wonder if Ashley knows this, because I know that's been your struggle, and I cannot imagine manually cross-listing. eBay is difficult enough even with List Perfectly, but doing it manually, I'm amazed that you even cross-listed 4 items this week. That's more than I would have done.
Thank you. I had the Bachelorette on, I had my phone out, and I was like, it's fine. I'm just doing it. I have the things, I'm copying and pasting. There's just so many fields, and it's so ugly, and it doesn't make me feel good. Like Poshmark is so simple. It is so easy. I think it's kind of fun. I don't know if other people do. Maybe I'm an anomaly, but like, it's just like I like the interface. And I'm like, yes, cool. You know, like 5 things, and I can do it so quickly. eBay, it is a struggle. So anyway,
It is.
I wish Prime Lister was a little bit different, and I wish it fully worked for ebay.ca. I also wish it looked a little bit different. But what I'd really like to have happen is for Vendoo or List Perfectly, one of them, to listen to their Canadian brothers and sisters and just make it work. And I realize it's not as simple as just like being like, cool, now it's available in Canada. Because even like, for example, if you download the Poshmark inventory report or the Poshmark sales report, even though we use the same $sign, the Canadian one, there's a C in front of the $sign.
I mean, I'm not even going to pretend that I know the first thing about what goes into developing a program like that.
No.
But speaking of which, and this just popped into my head, can you use the same like closet sharing services and all of that, like automation services? Are you able to do that?
I am not able to do that. And I know because lots of people have been talking about Posture VA recently, and I was just curious. And no, it only works in the US.
Oh my goodness.
But I use an extension called Poshmark Sidekick, and that works in Canada. So that's fantastic. It's like slightly more manual. It's not a full automation because you do actually click the button, but it makes it go so much faster. I love it. If anyone wants details on that, I've got a whole video on my channel. They can come click my link and do the things. But that's made a big difference in my business. But there's a lot of things. And it's so funny being in Canada because as Canadians, we think about you Americans a lot. Like,
not American.
Totally. We think about folks in America a lot. And it doesn't go the other way. And I find that so fascinating. And it's not a fault of anyone, but I think that in Canada, so much of our lives, like politics, policy, are impacted by the US.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's so much available to us, even just like ordering things. Like you'll order something from the US and pay in US dollars and just pay to have it shipped, whatever. Like, you know, I can't think that there's a lot of folks in America who are being like, cool, I'm going to go order something from Canada right now. Like it doesn't go the same way. So when it comes to these things like automation services, you know, different programs, even just something like Prime Lister, like when I was chatting with them, they're like, oh, we didn't realize you used ebay.ca. I was like, what do you think I'm using? I'm in Canada. We've talked about this, right? So this is something that's been so interesting about Poshmark coming into Canada and even now going into Australia. Like there's just things that are different.
Yeah. Well, I know you've been advocating for that. Every time I hear you in an interview, you talk about that, Vendoo and List Perfectly. And I agree. And I'm sure there's a way to do that. And I'm sure there is a market because there's
2.5 million people on Poshmark in Canada now. And I realize that's a lot less than folks in the US, but it's still a huge market. And the number of eBay sellers on Canada, I don't know what it is, but you know, eBay's been around for such a long time that there has to be like millions. So
and there's money for them in that too. So
and as more, sorry.
Yeah, let's hope that they will. I don't know if List Perfectly watches my channel, but
you're right. Anytime I talk to someone, and the conversation around cross-listing comes up, like I think I have the same spiel because once one of them, whoever is first to market, I'll be like, hello friends, this is great. There's also another company that reached out to me. I can't fully remember the name, but their service is like $100 a month. And I'm like, hi, I'm a part-time reseller. Yeah. I'm a part-time reseller. I think a lot of people who watch my channel are part-time. I can't be like, hello, come use this $100 product a month. Like, doesn't make sense for me.
I looked into that because it looks like it's more like hiring an actual virtual assistant who does a lot of the research and the work for you, which is tempting. But when you're part-time, that's a huge expense. I mean, that's why I switched from my person virtual assistant for sharing to a bot, because I can't afford this. I mean, I would like
No.
to support a small business, but I'm a small business too. It's hard.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
in Canada, whenever I look at something like that, I also have to convert it into Canadian dollars. And our dollar's gotten a little bit better, but right now it's sitting at about 1.25. So if it's a $99 price, it's going to be about 124 for me.
Yeah,
That's a lot of money.
that is a lot of money. Yeah, absolutely. So since we're already on the topic of, what tools do you use, etc. So I'm assuming you're a one person show, a one woman company. But aside from that, what is your support system like? Do you have anyone who helps you with any aspect of your business? Can you talk more about that?
Right now, it's just me doing all of the things. As I said, using Poshmark Sidekick to help share my closet, and that's made things go a lot faster. I've been in talks with my partner about editing my YouTube videos, which would definitely help me overall. It's a bit of like him doing the work and me relinquishing control. So it's a fun tug of war. But yeah, it's all me. And, I think as my business grows and scales and as I figure out what that means for me, like I will explore options. I may look into getting a VA at some point, which is fascinating to me because I've been an executive assistant and like a virtual assistant for most of my career. So I'm like, ooh, I get to hire one now. Amazing. It's very exciting. But yeah, it's
You feel very important, to have an assistant.
totally, especially because I've been one for so long. So, but yeah, that's kind of it. Like it's pretty simple. And I think one of the things that's helped, and this isn't a tool, but so I have this office space.
Yeah.
I live in a 2-bedroom condo with my partner. It's just him and I and our 2 cats. And when I moved in, this room was like our basement. It was like where all the things went that didn't have a home and just kind of like lived in here. And then in March 2020, when the company where I worked, they're like, so you're going to work from home for an extended period of time. I was like, okay. And I just like carved out a little nook over here, which you can't see. And then they were like, so we're never going back to the office. And there was one day where I was just like, well, I'm done here. And I started like pushing things out into the hallway. And Paul was like, what are you doing? I'm like, making myself an office space because this is apparently where I work now. So I have been optimizing this for my actual needs now, which, especially now that I'm transitioning out of being like an executive assistant, operations manager full time. I have my desk here that you can't see. I have my shipping station.
So cute. I love your whole setup back. I just have like walls and then I have piles of inventory that I'm always hiding right behind me.
I love that. So my inventory isn't actually in this room yet. And part of that is because my inventory has always just been in bins in the corners of our bedroom, like literally just like shoved into corners. And as I've gotten more and more inventory, I've just got more bins and the bins have just gotten stacked higher.
Yep.
So I finally ordered shelves, which are actually just sitting to my left here. But Wayfair sent me the wrong connectors. So I'm just waiting on those. But I'm really excited because once the connectors come and I build the shelf, I'm going to create a whole shelf over here and put my inventory in my office, which is such a game changer because it means that if my partner is sleeping and I need to go find an item, I don't need to rummage around in the dark for it and hope for the best.
Such a game changer. I will say I remember having around 160 pieces in our bedroom, and then it just grew and grew, and like yours, it just started stacking up, and then we moved and now I have a room, but I feel like my inventory is growing out of this room too. So I just need to I'm at this point where I need to get rid of stuff and not bring in more, or just get rid of the stuff that's not good and not selling, and then get the good stuff in. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it kind of takes over your house very quickly, I feel like.
It totally takes over. I recently ordered a half pallet and I'm waiting for it. And I don't actually know what our house is going to look like when it arrives. I'm like, there's just going to be like a pile and I'm just going to deal with it. And I'm very excited for it to arrive. But all of that to say, right now, it's a pretty simple show. The only other tool that I didn't mention is I use Sarah Styles dashboards. Those are great.
Same.
And otherwise, I just have like my own Excel sheet that I just created based on what I felt like I needed and kind of looking at what other people were doing. And my phone for taking photos and video. And yeah, it's pretty simple. I'm sure it'll evolve over time. Totally.
So you mentioned a half palette. So I'm curious about that. And just in general, and I know this is a difficult topic right now because you're still in lockdown, but in very general terms, pre-pandemic, or if, when you go back to sourcing next week, where do you normally source? Where does your inventory come from? What kind of inventory do you look for? Is it all clothing? And are you planning on niching down, or do you consider yourself a volume seller? Let's talk about all things inventory and things that you like to sell.
Totally. So when I started, it was my own stuff, and I've always loved clothing and fashion. And so I had some really great pieces that I was like, this would be great to get some money for. And then I started to go thrifting and explore what that world looked like. It took me a while to get comfortable. I said for a long time in the beginning that I was afraid of sweaters, and like the sweater section was a terrifying pit of like yarn that I just didn't understand, but I've gotten a lot better over time. And by the time I had finally found my groove with sourcing, everything shut down. So I was like, cool. I ordered my first liquidation lot in April of 2020. Spoiler alert, it was terrible. I was able to make my money.
Latest video.
It was so bad. And what was so funny is I was excited to make a video when I ordered it. And I decided to like take a peek before I made the video. And I was like, what is happening? Why is this so awful? So as time went on last year, we kind of went through periods where things would open up for a little while and then close. And so at that point, I would like continue going thrifting. Some of the Plato's Closets in our area went online. And so I was able to source inventory there. And I tried out some different liquidation companies and just like purchasing some mystery boxes or like reseller boxes. And so that was a way that I got inventory. As I said, because I was part-time and around that like 150, 160, 170 piece mark, like I was able to get enough pieces so that I could list like 40 or 50 every month and still keep my business flowing. I think that when I go thrifting on Monday, I can't wait. I'm so excited. It's going to be so good. Hopefully, it might be terrible. Who knows? I'm going to continue with what I know and like, and then see how that goes. I sell 98% women's clothing. I've sold a few men's pieces, but that's just by chance. I don't get the same joy from selling men's pieces as I do women's pieces. So that's a big part of it for me. I've sold a couple of home things. It's a lot of extra work and stress with shipping. So I don't know, but did purchase, I got sucked into the Quick Lots general merchandise half palette.
I was about to ask where you ordered from.
Yeah. So yeah, I am very curious. I have seen a few unboxings now, and I kind of know what to expect. I saw another reseller based in Canada. Hers arrived today, and her boxes looked like they were in rough shape, but she opened up the top of them and I saw a pink Smeg toaster. And I was like, well, if I get a pink Smeg toaster, I will feel like a winner.
Yeah.
That's all I need. So I feel like that will be really interesting. And I mean, I purchased that when the lockdown was, I knew it was still going to be going on for a little while. I purchased another liquidation box in, when did I want to say like April or May. Some issues happened with shipping, and then I ended up getting a refund on it. I purchased another box from another reseller in the US 3 weeks ago, currently waiting to find out what happens there. So I've been exploring and trying to get inventory into my life without much luck lately, but that should change when things open up on Monday. And in terms of like brands and kind of how I do, I'm sort of in like the middle of it all. I think, a lot of my brands that I sell pretty regularly, like Lululemon, Aritzia, Anthropologie, I've been selling a lot of Free People lately just because I got a box from Fox Liquidation and that did really well for me. Sell lots of jeans, lots of dresses, kind of in like the mid-range stuff. And again, it's going to be something that I'm going to be exploring as I continue to grow and scale.
I'm so excited for you to go back thrifting. I kind of want you to film it, but then also I just want you to enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a mix of that. I think there'll definitely be like a haul video. I wrote in my content plan for the next couple of weeks that I am going to be doing a haul. And, I think it'll be really interesting for me to know that I'm working towards growing my closet because it's a different lens than when I'm like, cool, I'm part-time, if I get 10 items on this trip, amazing. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a really interesting evolution. And I think right now, like curiosity is a really big thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been thinking about that too, with the going full time in mind. How is my sourcing going to change? What changes do I want to make, about my sourcing strategies and such? And there's so much to figure out. Do you have bins where you are? Do you have a Goodwill outlet?
No. So in Canada, there are 2, maybe 3 locations of Goodwill outlet bins. There's one in Western Canada. I want to say like Calgary. There might be more than one in Alberta. And then the one that's closest to me is in London, Ontario, which isn't very close to me. And I did an interview with Daniela on Thrifters Villa, and I had really bad geography and I learned what direction London is actually in, but it's like 2 hours away from me and I don't drive. So I haven't actually gone there. We do have a place that's just like in the north part of Toronto that is a pay by the pound place connected to another thrift store. And I went there once in the fall. It was okay. Like it wasn't super great. My cost of goods ended up being pretty low, but the pieces I got, none of them really wowed me. And most of them have sold, but I don't know if you get this when you do you go to the bins? Is that a thing you do? Yeah. So when you go to the bins or you get like, an inventory box and you get pieces and you're like, these are fine. But if I was paying a higher price, would I have picked it up?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely get that. And that's the thing. And I've been trying so one of my things is that I do want to go and try to go to the bins more because I just want to keep my costs down. But I still want to look at each piece and think, okay, am I only getting this because it's cheap? Or is the time that I put into this one piece, is it going to be worth it at the end? And that's kind of why I did that one video, and I'll insert it wherever, where I calculated my hourly salary because I was really curious, like, does it make sense for me to buy something for $1 or maybe 50 cents and sell it for 12? Which I still do. Everybody who watches my channel knows I pick up all the Fashion Nova because it sells. But it's not really like if that's all I'm doing, then it's not really worth my time because I have to work so much harder and so much more to make the same amount that I could be making if I sold, better pieces. But it's also a matter of, do I find these pieces? I watch Jack and Ryan and they go to the bins and they find designer pieces like pretty much every time. And I found 2 designer pieces ever at the bins. So, and I've been doing this for a year and a half. And I mean, I don't go on a regular basis like that, but still, it's a lot harder. And you have days where it's just all kind of feels like meh. And then sometimes I find pieces that surprise me that I didn't think would sell fast or would sell for much, and they do really well. So, but I do like that it's relatively low risk, but I still want to be, very mindful with what I pick up and just not buy stuff just because it's cheap and I think it's cute, because usually those are the pieces that are still sitting in my closet right now and that I'm about to send to ThredUp or put in my, 3 for $15 sale, and that's not making me any money. So
totally. Yeah, there's a lot to think about there. And, I love watching folks do, bins hauls and with you watching all the boxes that you've gotten. And, would it be great if 1, maybe I had a driver's license and I drove, or 2, I had access to something like that, maybe. But I will say with the thrift stores, in Toronto and like the greater Toronto area, I've found New with Tags Max Mara. I've found Cinq Cassette. I've found Isabelle Marant. I found Comme des Garçons. Like I found some pretty fantastic things. And by watching other resellers' hauls and, what sold videos, I've learned a lot more about these brands. So I'm happy with what I'm doing. And, would it be great if the bins were available and I could get my cost of goods down? Maybe. But just like you said, it's about being mindful about what you're picking up and what the return on your investment is going to be in terms of the money that you put in, but also the time, energy, and just like length of time.
Yeah. And time is so important, I think, especially for those of us who have been doing this part-time for a while also having all kinds of other responsibilities.
Totally.
Because that may not automatically change when you decide to go full-time. I mean, it depends on everybody's circumstances. For me, even if I were to go full-time right now, I would probably still need a second job, and I still have a child to think about and all of that. So my time is still very precious to me. So I think it's really important to keep that mentality and to keep that in mind when you're picking up your pieces.
Totally. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot to think about. And I think for me, even right now, like, figuring out what this full-time hybrid thing that I'm doing, like I'm making space for reselling, I'm making space for YouTube and content creation. And then I also have someone who I still support like 5 to 8 hours a week. So that takes up a little bit of my time as well. But yeah, time is precious, whether you are part-time or full-time, because just as you said, we all have lives outside of our work. And I think reselling can often feel all encompassing. Like it's so easy to just like wake up in the morning and be like, what happened on Poshmark today? Like, did I miss anything? Should I start sharing my closet? Like,
yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those businesses where you can always do more. Like you can always put in more time. It's not like you're ever done unless you make that decision. I'm done right now and I'm enjoying time with my family, or I'm watching a show and I'm not sharing my closet as I'm doing it, which I'm not sharing my closet ever, but yay, automation. Aside from your part-time job that you still have, that you just mentioned, and also from your Poshmark sales and eBay, do you have any other streams of income?
YouTube, but it's like so fresh and new. Yeah. So I just got
on being monetized.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your support and lovely shout outs. It's just, it's not a one person thing. So thank you. Yeah. So I just got monetized and that was really exciting. It was a goal that I had for 2020. And then last summer, I just didn't feel like making videos because it was a no.
Yeah.
Because my previous job, like not the last job I had, but the job before that there was a lot happening. There was a big transition. It was a lot of things. So it wasn't happening. Anyway, all that to say, got monetized this year. So that is now a stream of income, which is great. And I'm just excited to see how that grows and scales. I think I'm going to get my first paycheck from YouTube this month, which is exciting. It's not like the big bucks, but it's more than zero, which is what I was making before. I have had a couple of companies reach out to me to do sponsored content on YouTube. So far, none of them have been the right fit because their product maybe didn't work entirely in Canada, or I just didn't think it was the right fit for my channel. But it's nice to know that some of those might be coming in the future. I also create content on Instagram. And so I've been doing a handful of partnerships with companies. So that is another stream of income that I have. My part-time role, which is flexible, and the person that I work with, she's an entrepreneur. Her name is Jam. If you want to learn how to make your voice into your ultimate superpower, you should follow Jam Gamble. She is fantastic.
She is. Yeah.
Oh yes, you started following Jam.
Yes, I did.
She's amazing. And I learn a lot from her. But the great thing about her as well is, I had a big conversation with her about my transition, and she was like, this is your full-time job now. And she's still treating it as such. And so she's like, hey, do you have time to join me for this meeting? Or, the work that I do with her is pretty flexible, so I can fit it into my day. So I've got reselling, mostly Poshmark, a little bit of eBay, YouTube, content creation, working with Jam, affiliate marketing. I also, when I announced that I'm doing the Becky thing. Totally. I'm like, what are the other streams of income that I have? When I shared that I was leaving my job.
Mm-hmm.
I had 3 people reach out to me and offer me jobs,
Wow.
which was very flattering.
Yeah.
And a good test for me, because I was like, no,
Mm-hmm.
because so much of my career as an executive assistant in operations has been spent supporting other people. And I'm really curious to know what happens if I go all in on myself.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had these folks reach out to me, I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I appreciate that offer. And should things change in the future, happy to have a conversation. But right now, it needs to be the Ashley show.
Awesome. I love it. So we already touched on this a little bit, but just going from part-time to full-time, what are some concerns that you may have? What were some considerations, things you were trying to figure out before making that decision? But as you're going through that, and I guess you're still going through that process, but what was on your mind when making that decision and saying, okay, I'm going to leave my job and I'm going to do this full-time?
Mm-hmm. I think, as I mentioned earlier, just like the security in terms of the foundation that I have with my partner and with our home, like that's huge. Like that in and of itself is a big thing. I have a bunch of money saved, and I think that was an important thing for me, thanks to a happy tax accident, not an accident at all, like but a happy tax surprise. Essentially, I had a lot more money saved than I realized, which was amazing. And it was actually the morning that I found out from my accountant what I was receiving, like from a tax return perspective. That was the day I gave my notice.
I have all this money now. Goodbye.
But it was something like the decision had already been made, and I hadn't fully decided when I was going to share the news and what that was going to look like. And I hadn't fully formulated the plan. But then when I got that news, I was like, oh, I'm in an even different financial situation than I thought. Am I rolling in money? No, but it was enough to give me the security to know that even if I made $0 over the next few months, zero, like actually just like zero, I would be okay. Nice. And so I think that was a big consideration for me, because, you know, as I've said, like a big part of this for me is not just the transition of part-time to full-time. It's like taking care of myself and not just going from burnout to even more burnt out because I'm just doing my own thing. So having like savings and having that security, like that was a big consideration for me. I think also being in a place where, you know, I've done, like you, I've been reselling for like a year and a half. It's still new for me, but I still really enjoy it. Yeah. You know, there are some tasks that I enjoy more than others, for sure. But I still enjoy it. And I think what the last 14 months of staring at a computer screen and being on Zoom and working from home has taught me is that I need a bit more variety than that. And I feel like reselling provides me with that right now, especially, you know, going sourcing, being on my feet, photographing, getting to be creative, listing items, like sharing them, doing all of those things. Like I really like that variety. And I like being able to spend my days in kind of a flexible way. And I think especially right now, as I'm figuring out what I need from like a healing perspective, being able to say, okay, I'm going to go take a walk for 90 minutes and listen to a podcast in the middle of the day is pretty great. And then being like, cool, you know what, later tonight, I'm going to draft a whole bunch of eBay listings, and knowing that that doesn't have to be on a set schedule. Like that flexibility really spoke to me right now, especially because it's summer. We've been in lockdown for a really long time. And so if I can enjoy time outside, if I can enjoy sitting on my balcony with my cat, if I can enjoy, you know, traveling when it's safe to do so and still have a business, like that's fantastic for me. So I think that like that flexibility and like the variety in the tasks that I'd be doing, and the fact that it wouldn't just be on a screen, that was, those were important considerations. Concerns? Oh, so many. Like, but the thing was, is that when I told someone that I was leaving my job, they were like, oh, you must be so nervous. I was like, no, I'm really excited. And I think I'm excited and have that confidence because I know it's the right decision for me.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, it's scary to be like, cool, I'm going to do this reselling thing. It's a real job. And look, I'm doing it. I'm going to go purchase clothes and resell them to other people. Like that's a legitimate thing. And I think everything that's happened over the last year and a half, like that's a worrisome consideration. Cause I'm like, I hope that things are better. Like cases have finally gone down substantially in Ontario. Things are opening up again. I got my second vaccine 2 days ago, which is amazing.
You feeling okay?
Oh, I feel great. I felt better after the second one than I did after the first one. Like, great. Body, well done. Yeah, I felt very lucky that and again, it was like, yes. So I got it on Monday by surprise. I didn't expect to get it on Monday, but there was a walk-in clinic near my house that was taking patients to do walk-ins. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go stand in line for 90 minutes to wait to get my vaccine. I have that flexibility to do so right now.
Yeah.
And, yesterday I had some things planned. I was like, cool, I'm going to move them around because I'm going to take it easy and just make sure that I'm okay. Like those are huge considerations. And that quality of life piece is so big for me. But yeah, on the flip side, I'm like, I don't know what could happen. I don't know if I'm going to go back to the thrift store and suddenly Value Village is going to be like, jeans are all $30 now. I'm going to be like, Value Village, I know you've been closed for a long time, but like, really? So I think it's like the things that are outside of my control, the economy, prices, availability of things, scaling my business. Those are the things that, have piqued my worries, but not to a place where it feels debilitating, where it's like, you know what, those are outside my control. I'm going to do all the things that are within my control to grow and scale this in the best way that I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think what you were saying about, that burnout feeling, I think it's so important that when you do go full time, and from what it sounds like, you're in a position where you can really ease into that and where you're not under pressure of having to make a certain amount, right away. And I think that is so important because you don't want to go from one job to your fun job, and then your fun job is no longer fun because there's so much pressure. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. If I were to go full time right now, there'd be so much. I mean, there's still pressure with my whole situation right now, but yeah, I don't want to lose the fun of it. I don't want it to be another job that I'm doing just to pay the bills. I want to enjoy it. I want to have fun with it. And for me, if that means that I have to work another job so that I can enjoy this one, then that's fine. And that's the way it is right now. But I think because it's such a job where you can always do more, you can always work more. And there's so many people out there, who talk about, you need to hustle all the time. I get up in the morning and I hustle, and I'm like, I don't want to do all that. That is exhausting. I've been doing that. And reselling for me does not need to be that.
No, about that. So we're all doing our own thing. And I think I was thinking about this actually heading into this interview with you, because I think comparison runs so rampant in this industry. Because we all post it on social media. We're like, look at this package tag. Look at this what's sold video. Like, can you think of any other industry where we the accountants in the world aren't like, look at the stack of Excel sheets I made today. Like, it's not the same. And, I'm sure there are accountants who compare themselves to other accountants. Like, I don't diminish that fact, but I think it's so easy to compare yourself to other people when it is in your face all of the time.
Oh yeah.
But it shouldn't be, because it's you versus you. And this is your business. You are an entrepreneur. If you sell a thing on Poshmark, you are an entrepreneur. And, you need to find what makes sense for you and your lifestyle and your business, and just stay in your own lane and not be looking over. I don't even drive. And I know that when you're driving, you should keep your eyes on the road and you're not looking over at a lane, 4 lanes over at what Sally Sue is doing. Because if you're looking at what Sally Sue is doing while you're in this lane, you're going to get into an accident.
Yeah.
And so I think the same comes for reselling. It's about figuring out what works for you. There's no right, there's no wrong. Whether you sell Fashion Nova or you sell Gucci, like there's a market for, or both. That's great. Just like put the little Fashion Nova piece in the Gucci purse and just like send it off.
Buy the Gucci.
I love it.
Fashion Nova for free.
Yeah, totally. So I think that's a huge thing for folks, whether you're full-time, whether you're part-time, whether you're doing this casually, is reminding yourself that this is your business. You get to do it your way. And you don't have to do a thing just because you saw a big reseller do it. You don't have to feel bad about the brands that you're finding because you don't find designer items at the bins. Like you might have like a longing and be like, ooh, it would be nice if I found a Gucci belt, but it's okay, whatever it looks like for you and however it fits into your life, whether you continue to be a part-time reseller and that's great and it works for you, whether you ebb and flow between full-time and part-time depending on what's happening in your life, or whether at some point in your life you're like, you know what, reselling is just not serving me anymore and I don't actually want to do it. I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, I'm with you on that. And side note, I would like to find some designer items, but I'm also terrified because I don't want to deal with the whole like authenticating it. And it's too much, I know that nobody fakes my torrid, so I'll sell that all day long.
Totally.
Yeah. So what would be one, and I think we touched on it a little bit already, but what is one aspect of this reselling business that you feel like is really important, but you feel like it's not really being talked about a whole lot in our community? Is there something that comes to mind that you feel like this is something we should be talking about and we don't talk about it enough?
I think comparison, I do think people talk about it, but I still think people do it. I still do it. Do you hear that rant I just went on? And then I like see someone else's photo and I'm like, ooh. I think it needs to be a constant reminder. I think mental health and burnout, I think in every industry is an important conversation to be having. And, how are you taking care of yourself? Because, as we've talked about, it can just be so easy to keep going and going and going, whether you're part-time, whether you're full-time. And I think especially when you're part-time, right? Because you're fitting reselling into like the crevices of your life. And so when are you leaving time for fun or like joy or rest or family, friends, dishes, like sleeping? I think that's a really important consideration. And, just as you said too, like, I don't subscribe to this like hustle mentality. It's just not for me. I work hard. I do. I pride myself on that, but I also pride myself on going to bed at like 10:30 most nights. And although my body's been waking me up at 6 o'clock every morning, I haven't set an alarm in like 10 days. My body's like, hello, 6 a.m. is here. And I'm like, shh, body, shh, go back to sleep.
I have that same conversation, but with my child. It's like, it's 5:45. Why do you need a snack?
I feel him. Yeah. So I think just like mental health, self-care, burnout, taking vacation.
Is that something you do?
I think it's something that we should do. I've seen as the US has been opening up and things, I've been resellers, sharing that they're traveling and taking vacation. And it's interesting because some of them, have said, I'm putting my closet on vacation. Some have been like, oh, my husband is still shipping things for me. And again, there's no right or wrong way, but as human beings, I think there is a benefit to slowing down and taking a break. And this part is hard. It's like getting quiet with yourself and being like, who am I when I remove the busyness and all of those reselling tasks?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is such an important question because, we constantly introduce ourselves a certain way, right? Depending on context. I'm a professor, I'm a reseller, I'm a mom. And it's just like, who's left when you take all of that away? And part of, my thought process behind potentially going full-time at some point, considering that transition, is that there's certain parts of, my identifiers that I just want to take out because I'm like, I don't want to be that anymore. I will always have a certain amount of love for that part of my life, but it's so consuming that it doesn't leave much room for me. And I have other
Yeah,
parts of my life that are so consuming, like being a mother. And it's just at some point you can only give so much. And I'm at that point,
totally.
I'm like, something needs to go slash change into something else because it's not working anymore and I'm not taking care of myself. And it shows in certain areas of my life. So I think that's really important to listen to that voice that says, oh, hi, I'm still here somewhere buried under all of this, and to really hone in on that voice and make sure that you listen to it. So
Yeah.
mental
Yeah.
health.
Mental health is huge. We all only have 24 hours in a day. And if you imagine your life as a pie chart, what are the pieces of the pie
Yeah.
now? And what would you love for it to look like? And I realize that not everyone is at a place where they could get to that full ideal because of life, because of circumstance, because of responsibilities, because of situations, like so many things. But I think it's a great exercise for yourself to think about what's happening right now. Where do you want to be? And like, what are like even tiny incremental things you could do for you to get there? Is it adding automation into your business? Is it simplifying your processes? Is it having more or less inventory? Is it being on more or less platforms? Like, and those are just even things in your reselling business.
Yeah.
When you look outside of that, there's other like tweaks that you could make to adjust it so that you get closer and closer to that ideal.
Yeah. I love how you're basically anticipating the next question I'm going to ask you in your response.
Oh, thank you.
Which is, it's twofold. So in your reselling business, but also by extension with your YouTube channel, because they are connected, obviously. What are some goals that you have achieved that you're really proud of? And then what are some other goals that you're currently working towards? Some maybe some specific goals that you've set, something that you want to accomplish within, the next few months, by the end of this year, a year from now. If that's how you operate, what are some goals that you have coming up that you're working towards?
I think getting monetized on YouTube was a big one. That was really exciting. And I had a number goal for the end of the year for YouTube, but I think I'm going to surpass that. So that's really exciting. I got to speak at Posh Fest last year, which was an amazing goal. And, something that I set out for myself at the start of 2020. And then I set it out at the start of 2020. I'm like, yes, I would love to be a speaker at Posh Fest, like baby Ashley reseller, like so fresh. I want to speak at Posh Fest. Oh, is Posh Fest happening? Oh, the world has shut down. Oh, it's going online. Oh, I'm a speaker. That was really cool.
Nice.
This year I've been wanting to do more speaking generally. And that's like, I've been chipping away at that. So that's been great. Thank you for having me on your channel.
Of course.
So yeah, so those are some goals. And in terms of reselling, I'm sure there's like milestones that I've hit along the way, like 500 items and like certain monetary goals. And those have felt good. Numbers aren't everything, but it is nice to have these like little mini milestones to just like track your progress and celebrate, because otherwise you're just on to the next thing. So those have been good. So in terms of what comes next, I think that's something that I'm going to be exploring over the next few weeks, few months, because to be honest, I don't totally know. I knew that I needed to make a change, and I knew that, I was going to leave my job. So I know that reselling and YouTube is going to take up a bigger space in my life, but I'm still figuring out what that looks like. And I need to figure out what scaling my Poshmark business looks like, whether that's like just increasing my Poshmark closet, whether it's, ensuring that everything is cross-listed, still figuring that out. And then in terms of YouTube, I'm going to be doing 2 videos a week soon, which is exciting. And I'm looking forward to, I'm going to be continuing content that's focused on reselling, but also doing more like mindset, entrepreneurial stuff, because that's an area I really like to be in. Like, it's an arena I feel really comfortable in. And I don't see a ton of it out there, like in the reseller space. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that and sharing my experience there. And hopefully doing like some more sponsorships, both on Instagram, and hopefully, something will come my way for YouTube that makes sense. And also just like continuing to slow down. And so I know that that seems counterintuitive to like having goals and like scaling my business and growing things, but being comfortable, like being still and ensuring that I'm taking care of myself.
All right. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for talking to me today. This has been so interesting and so fun and so helpful as well. Before we wrap this up, is there anything else you want to add, you want to say, anything else you want to tell my viewers, which I'm sure are most of them are your viewers too, but anything else to add? Maybe remind everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, I think just take good care of yourself, whatever that means for you. And folks can find me at Ashley Gibson on YouTube and Ashley DTL on Poshmark and Instagram and Twitter if you do that. And anywhere else. See, now I'm doing the like question mark thing. I'm like, have I shared all the places? YouTube, Instagram are the places I'm the most active. I'm also starting a newsletter. So if you come on over to my channel and check out one of my latest videos, you'll see a little link. You can sign up for my newsletter. It's going to be kind of a mix of like, it's kind of similar to what I do on Instagram, where it's like a little bit of reselling, a little bit of lifestyle, maybe some cats, maybe what I'm reading. So that'll be fun.
Cats, I love it.
Maybe some cats.
I will sign up for that. Yeah, and of course, all of Ashley's information is going to be in the description down below, so you can find her. Yeah, so thank you so much for being my first guest on this interview series. This is the first interview I've done ever, so
you were amazing. Thank you for having me, even though I'm not even officially a full-time reseller, but I think it was an interesting conversation to explore, and just reminding folks that like there's no right or wrong way to do this, and you can figure it out as you go.
Yeah, and I'm sure that as I'm interviewing more of our fellow resellers, whether it's full-time or part-time or somewhere in the middle, we're going to get a lot more perspectives on this and a lot more potential avenues. So if anyone who's watching is currently going through that process of figuring out what do I want to do with my reselling business, I really hope and I think this can be beneficial to them. And this is why I'm doing this. It's 50%, well, it's a third me wanting to learn from others. It's a third me wanting to provide meaningful content. And it's a third me just wanting to talk to my reseller friends. So,
well, I feel great about all three of those things. And I think you are such an amazing member of this community and bring people together and support. No, it's true. Like you're such an amazing supporter for everyone. And you really do bring people together. And I really admire that about you. So thank you for having me. And thank you for being a lovely friend.
Ditto. And I'm sure I will talk to you soon. And thank you for chatting today. Thank you for putting up with my child. And yeah. Everybody, make sure to watch Ashley's channel. If you are not already subscribed, make sure you do that. So thank you, Ashley. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And to everybody who's watching, make sure to subscribe to Ashley. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video and if you maybe came over here because you wanted to see Ashley. And yeah, hit the like button and I will see you all soon. And Ashley, I will talk to you soon as well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.